You're drowning in debt, searching for a way out, and suddenly you see dozens of ads promising the fastest and cheapest solution. But here's the truth. Not all debt relief options are created equal, and the wrong choice could cost you thousands of dollars or years of stress. That's why today I'm going to talk with you about the 4 major debt relief options: debt management, debt relief also known as debt settlement, and Chapter 7 bankruptcy and Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So you can see the pros and cons of each. And before you decide on anything, make sure to check out our free debt relief options calculator below. It compares all your options, personalized to your situation, and doesn't require email or phone number unless you want further information or communication. Welcome to the Ascend Finance YouTube channel, where we take confusing debt topics and break them out into clear, unbiased information. My name is Ben, and I've worked with thousands of people going through debt relief. I know there's often confusion and even shame around different options, especially bankruptcy. But the truth is, these are sometimes legitimate tools. In some cases, they're the fastest and cheapest way to break free when you're facing a financial hardship. So let's dive into the 4 big ones, starting with debt management plans. Now, first, a debt management plan, or DMP, is typically offered by a non-profit credit counseling agency. Here's how it works. Instead of paying all your credit cards separately, you make one monthly payment to the agency and they distribute that to the creditors. They basically negotiate your interest rates on your credit cards. So let's say you're at 29%, maybe it goes down to 7, maybe 12%. You close the account and you get on a fixed payment plan. Now, the pros are interest rates are often reduced dramatically. Second, you avoid late fees and collection calls because your accounts don't fall behind. Your credit score isn't hit as much as other options, and it can actually increase while you're in the program. Now, let's talk about the cons. Usually you have to pay your balances in full, no principal forgiveness. So if you're already struggling to make payments, it may be more expensive than other options. 2, the plan typically takes 3 or 5 years. Now that's much faster than credit card minimums, but it's important to understand you're going to be in this for the long haul. Now, the third thing is if you miss payments, you could be dropped in the program, and it's important to understand that as well. And fourth and finally, in a debt management program, you often have to close those accounts. Now, you can maybe not have all your accounts in there if you want to keep some of those longer standing credit cards, but it's good to understand that before you join. So if your main issue is high interest rates, a DMP could be a really good fit. But if you really need actual debt reduction, you might want to consider these other options. So let's talk about number 2. Debt settlement, also known as debt relief. Now, debt relief is where a company or you negotiate with creditors to settle the debt for less than what you owe. So if you have a $10,000 debt, the company may be trying to settle that account for $5,000. I created a video that covers a lot of the pros and cons. So if you're interested in an option, I definitely encourage you to check that one out, but I'll highlight some of the higher level pros and cons here. First, you can reduce balances total, not just interest payments. Second, it often takes 2 to 5 years, which it can be much faster than paying your minimums. Third, there's flexibility on your monthly contributions to your savings account that is used to pay creditors. So if you need extra funds during Christmas season, that may actually be an option for you. Let's talk about the cons. Often you have to fall behind before creditors are willing to settle, which could hurt your credit score and credit report. Second, there is risk of lawsuit from the creditors, which is important to understand. Third, you do have to pay fees, and settlement companies can often charge you between 15 and 25% of the enrolled debt. The next con I want to talk to you about is that forgiven debt may be taxable. There's an IRS thing. I have a lot of videos on this, so if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. And lastly, when your accounts fall behind, a debt collection agency may sue you in a debt collection lawsuit. A lot of times, settlement companies can still negotiate those and settle those accounts, but it is something to consider. For some, settlement is a middle ground between bankruptcy and paying in full, but it's not risk-free, and you need to go into it with eyes wide open. Next, I want to talk to you about Chapter 7 bankruptcy. This is a big one, and oftentimes it carries a stigma that people feel shame about it. But here's what you need to know. It's often the cheapest and fastest option to get out of debt. Most Chapter 7 bankruptcy cases can last between 4 and 6 months, and you can walk away from your unsecured debt entirely. Let's talk about the pros. First, it can wipe away your credit card debt and medical debt. Second, it usually costs under or around $2,000 total, and that includes attorney fees. If you end up using a software like My Fresh Start Finance, it can be dramatically less, under $500, including the $338 filing fee. Next, the process is relatively quick and can take months, not years. So that can be a huge plus. Another pro is that the collection calls, wage garnishments for unsecured debt, and lawsuits for unsecured debt stop immediately. So you get that protection from the lawsuit, which a lot of people really appreciate. Let's talk about the cons. First, it's on your credit report for 10 years. years. Now, sure, you may be able to get credit much faster, and a friend of mine that filed could get a secured credit card to start building his credit soon after getting discharged from his bankruptcy, but it's important to know. Second, you may have to give up certain non-exempt assets. Now, our free Chapter 7 calculator can help you estimate if you are going to lose any assets, but it's important to know that. And another con is that not everyone qualifies. There is an income test called the means test, which our Chapter 7 means test calculator can help you estimate, but it's important to know that not everyone qualifies for this option. And here's the part most people don't realize. Bankruptcy is government managed and completely legal. There is no shame in bankruptcy, and in fact, many famous people have filed bankruptcy. So it can definitely be something that you can rebuild after bankruptcy, and if they can do it, so can you. The last option I want to talk to you about is Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Now, this is a structured repayment plan lasting 3 or 5 years overseen by the court. You make monthly payments based on your income and expenses, and at the end, the remaining eligible debt may be discharged. Now, many people may compare Chapter 13 bankruptcy to debt relief, debt settlement, and there's pros and cons to each that our calculator that I described earlier can help you kind of understand. Let's talk about the pros. First, you can catch up on mortgage or car payments while keeping the asset if those accounts are behind. Second, it can stop foreclosure and repossession. Third, it's an option for people who don't qualify for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And fourth, it can actually sometimes, not always, be quite a bit cheaper than debt settlement, and it can get you out of debt faster than debt settlement. Now, I say it depends because sometimes it's the exact opposite. So it's always good to potentially look at both options and compare the cost and duration for both. Let's talk about the cons. First, a long commitment, 3 or 5 years of court structured payments. If you couldn't qualify for a Chapter 7, you may be on a 5-year plan, but it really does depend. Next, credit stays impacted during the plan, and Chapter 13 bankruptcy is going to be on your report for 7 years. Now, again, you may be able to get credit faster, but it's important to understand that. Now, the next thing is that oftentimes the attorney fee is higher than a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and you may be paying more total. So that's just an important thing to know. Now, Chapter 13 bankruptcy can be a lifeline if you need to protect assets, but it may rarely be the cheapest or fastest way out of debt like a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. That said, if you don't qualify for Chapter 7, it may be the cheapest and fastest option for you. So the big takeaway is which is best for you. The truth is often it depends on your situation. If you can afford your balances but need a lower interest rate plan, then debt management may be right for you. If you can't pay in full and want to avoid bankruptcy, then maybe debt settlement. If you qualify for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and don't lose any assets, then maybe it's Chapter 7. If you don't qualify for Chapter 7 and need to catch up on a house, then maybe Chapter 13. The challenge is always what actually fits with your income, debt, and state laws. And that's exactly why I recommend trying out our free debt relief options calculator that I linked in below. It compares all these different options, give you cost, timeline, etc., pros and cons, and hopefully it helps you understand your options to get out of debt cheaper, easier, and faster. And before you go, make sure to watch my next video covering debt relief company reviews, because even if you choose the right option, the wrong company can potentially derail you with high fees or bad practices. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.